You guys, I just have to say this, Cole. I know I'm literally breaking the rules instantly, but I'm going to say the awful thing out loud since we're here, which is...
Sorry. We just got a head shaking from our producer.
Yeah. We're already in trouble. Robbie. Sorry, Cole. We're in. We're in for a penny. We're in for a pound. I'm finishing this.
True, yes or no?
Do we have to answer honestly?
Don't break the rules and lie.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you each watch the movie more than once?
Yes.
No.
Okay, I didn't either.
Wait.
I fell asleep. So I watched it twice, but the first time I fell asleep. I can make you think I have a prepared statement.
You know what happens is that I say no, and I feel like I've disappointed you, Cole. And I don't want to disappoint you.
20 minutes in.
Do you remember the future?
Are we back? We're back. What do you mean we're in the future?
October 21st, 2015.
That you've built a world and you've given exposition, but it does feel like this movie is purely setting up 3. And it sounds like from Robbie, the payoff comes from 3, like watching 3. Then you go back and kind of appreciate 2 more because you see what it's doing.
Yeah, it's all cosmetic.
I felt like they forgot to treat the characters like humans.
Like the renderings of the future and the way the technology is used is all cosmetic. It's not in service of developing story or developing character. I wish there had been more exploration of that rather than, oh, isn't this cool? So the movie really doesn't deal with the effects of time or the philosophical weight of time. Like everything felt like, isn't this cool that we can do this?
This is Back to the Future 2. Who brought this story and why?
I brought this story to us because I was thinking about initially I was thinking about about the podcast being more deliberate and like planning out the year ahead. So I was looking for like, oh, this is a holiday. We should think about movies for this. And I thought, oh, daylight savings. That's a pretty interesting holiday. And so when I brought it to you, I made a list of time travel movies. But when I brought it to you two, I was thinking, oh, maybe we should, because it's spring forward. So I thought we should look at time travel movies that went into the future rather than back in time.
Plus, we hate doing anything in order. So why would we start with Back to the Future and then Back to the Future 2? We should start with the second one. Yeah, it's very on brand.
I did not think about that, but that is exactly right. Like, we're going to start with 2, and then later we'll go back to 3 and never do Back to the Future 1.
We'll start with the most recent Marvel movie with no context, and it's kind of a known thing we're doing. You know,
we have a type.
Yeah, we have a type. Chaos. It's a non-linear podcast. We've done this with Freakier Friday. Then we watched Freaky Friday, and we have said that at some point we're going to watch the original Freaky Friday, like the OG Jodie Foster one. We watched the most recent Marvel movie, Fantastic Four, Baby Steps or First Steps. Having watched no other Marvel movies. We've watched Hobbs and Shaw, a spinoff of The Fast and Furious, but having watched no other Fast and Furious or very few Fast and Furious movies. I think that Fleabag season 2 before Fleabag season 1. We have our way.
We have a style.
Chaos.
Question Robbie. No, actually, sorry. Question Jacqueline. How do you read a book?
Oh man. I don't admit this out loud ever. I read the end. And I go back.
So every time you read a book, you literally read the last page first.
I will. Okay, actually, no. It's more chaotic than that. I will start the book, and depending how much I need to know the ending, if it's interfering with my reading pleasure and it's making me want to skip the pleasure of reading, I will then read the end so that I can enjoy the present. So not always, like I try to enjoy and be suspenseful, but I will often, so that it will slow down my own reading. Like, because I'll need to know so bad, I'll try to skip ahead too fast. So yeah, I'll start it, read the end, go back. And I read magazines backwards, always.
I do too.
I love this.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the New Yorker, and I always read everything in the, like, I read it from back to front. Yeah, because it's always like reviews first and then stories. Yeah.
This explains so much about this podcast. How do you read, Cole? I don't. Sorry, Cole. Go ahead and answer.
I read one random page in the middle to make sure that it's good enough to be reading, and then go to the front to the back.
I will say when I'm deciding if I'm going to buy a book, I open a random page and read it. So not entirely dissimilar.
Yeah, I read the beginning. If I'm trying to decide.
Why do you do it, Cole?
To make sure that the style of diction is going to be on par with what I need.
It doesn't help that you have the voice you have. Honestly, it's not the most insane sentence, but to hear it said by you is just like, okay. Pretentious alert.
And for those who can't see us, Jacqueline and I had the exact same smile.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Fully.
Great. Jacqueline, for the person who doesn't know what daylight savings time is, what the F is daylight savings time?
I mean, I think a great description of what the F is daylight savings time is what the F is daylight savings time. But yes, we twice a year, I guess. At one point, we set our clocks forward an hour and then we set them back an hour. And I think it had something to do with like farmers. And I don't know why we do it. I think we should abolish it, or one of them. I don't know which one, but we shouldn't do it anymore. I think the best description of it is what the F is. I don't know. It's dumb. It's dumb is what it is. It's dumb, but we move our clocks forward an hour.
Yeah, and practically it means that at 2:00 in the morning, we then set our clocks to 3:00 in the morning and lose an hour of sleep. And then in the fall, at 2:00 in the morning or 3:00 in the morning, we set our clocks 1 hour backwards so we can get an extra hour of sleep.
And it should just stay the same time year round.
Yeah.
But though the invent of the iPhone has helped immensely, because used to, right, children, especially me and Robbie, it's like you'd have to like set the microphone, like the microwave and the VCR clock, and you'd have to and then you never knew what time it was. And if your family forgot, you'd be like late to cross country practice.
That's speaking from experience, Jacqueline.
Hypothetically speaking from, experience. Yeah.
What does someone need to know before watching Back to the Future 2 or before listening to this episode about Back to the Future 2?
In order to get the maximum enjoyment out of this movie, you really have had to see the first Back to the Future, because it references it a lot, both in plot, in the way that it's filmed, and in the in the way the characters behave. Without it, I'm very curious how someone who has never seen Back to the original would process this movie.
I thought about that a lot, actually, because I've seen Back to the Future. I love Back to the Future. I've seen it a lot, but it wasn't top of mind. And so there were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, that's just a direct reference, but I didn't have a lot of them. And I was like, I should go back and watch Back to the Future so that I understand this one better. But in spirit of the podcast, I didn't, because it was like Freakier Friday. I was like, let's see what happens if I just watch Back to the Future 2. Yeah. And does it stand up from a storytelling structure on its own? It's the second in the series of a very popular movie, Back to the Future. And it picks up, I believe, because I wasn't entirely sure of this myself, it picks up where Back to the Future left off. So like literally in the garage. And I think that's literally like the last scene of the movie. It picks up and it just keeps going, right? It's like as if Back to the Future 1 just kept moving, because now we're like in the same day, we're in the same minute, and they end up deciding that they have to go to the future because the Marty McFly's life in the future gets super messed up. So they head to the future, but then they mess stuff up in the future that then affects the past, and then they go back to the past. So we have to go back to the same past we went to in 1 to fix the mistake that they made by going to the future. And it broke my brain a little, but we'll talk about that later. And then it's the middle of a trilogy. It's very clear, like they'd already shot the third film, I believe. But so it says like to be continued, very specifically, because we're about to go to the Old West. We're about to go to 1885, I think. And I think that's enough to know. And all of this film came out in 1989, I believe, but it's set in 1985, and it's they fly to the future of 2015, which is wild to watch in 2025.
So they fly into the future, which is our past.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, they fly into 2015. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is funny. They fly into the future, which is our past. Whew, we old, y'all. Even you, Cole.
It's gotta be a dream.
One of the interesting aspects of the first movie, some people say, well, that movie's really about nostalgia. Well, it depends on how old you are. Bob and I came to the conclusion that if you took a kid from the 80s and you stuck him in the 50s, he wouldn't like it at all. Whereas people that actually lived at the time would look at this and say, oh, isn't this wonderful to see all this stuff again? So we had the wonderful experience of sitting in an audience and hearing young people laugh at certain things and hearing older people laugh at different things because of what they were responding to.
I do wonder how someone who hadn't seen the original Back to the Future would experience Back to the Future 2.
What would you tell the Gen Zer in your life, Cole?
This is what he spent the day with yesterday in like a working fashion, but that we were doing Back to the Future, she was like, what? And then it was like, it's a large film franchise. You should look it up. And I'd tell her Michael J. Fox was extremely popular and that people were waiting for this.
They were. People were really waiting for this. Mm-hmm. So good.
And it was the first sequel in the Robbie definition of sequels when people say, it's a sequel, and nothing else about it.
People were excited, though. Everybody wanted a hoverboard. I asked Marvel guy. This was popular back then, right? Like, this was a good movie. And he said everybody wanted a hoverboard.
I need to borrow your hoverboard.
A hoverboard is a board that hovers on magnetic energy, and they've been around for years. It's just that parents groups have not let the toy manufacturers make them, and we got our hands on some, and we put them in the movie.
I'm also interested how you would have to tell like the youth today. You'd have to tell them so much antiquated stuff about the 80s because the way it gets the future wrong. It's like you'd have to explain faxes. You'd have to explain like home telephones. Like it was really fun to see the way that they tried to like futurize these like very antiquated things. Like there's just more faxes in the future, you guys. All houses now have multiple fax machines. Like you'd have to explain that.
Yeah, it's also interesting to see what they got right and what they got wrong. Like
Yeah.
Jacqueline, what you said about how they futurized these things from the 80s, like fax machines, instead of like doing away with fax machines altogether.
Yeah.
It's like they're all
There's
on
just
the
more.
wall and they're all,
But fax machines definitely make it, you guys.
Contextual question. Did most Americans have a fax machine, or was that an aspirational thing of only some people had a fax machine?
Great question.
Yeah.
Aspirational. So I guess it's just, it was equal. There was more egalitarian that they dreamt of a future in which everyone could have multiple fax machines. Because I think fax machines were a big deal. Like you'd have to go to like
A business.
not Home Depot.
Yeah.
You'd have to go to like Staples or whatever the Staples of the 80s was and like get your pick up your fax. I think we had a fax, but my grandma was very technologically savvy. So I think people like came to our house to fax stuff.
Yeah, I used to work at my dad's office when I was a kid, and we went there one Saturday, and he was like, come here, and he showed us the fax machine, and it was like, he was so proud, and so, yeah, so, I mean, it was a big deal. It was like, look,
He would have loved to live in a world where everyone had multiple fax machines.
Yeah, it'd be great. And I remember thinking it was pretty cool, too.
I love that. I love that you remember when you saw your first fax machine.
Yeah.
Like it was like, this is a day and I will never forget it.
Yeah.
Core memory. That's incredible. I love that.
When were each of us either in or out of the story?
I was in, I was out, and I was back in probably within the first like 4 minutes.
I was on board with this movie from the get-go. There were things that I had forgotten and things that I was looking out for because they changed the actress from the first movie to the second movie, and then they restaged scenes from the original movie using the replacement actress. And so technically I was on alert throughout the entire thing. There were times with the plot and the characters that I rolled my eyes, which made me feel really bad, and I was like, oh, come on, or that doesn't work, but for the most part, I was fascinated by this movie.
And Cole, when were you in or when were you out for this movie?
I was in from the first shot.
Ooh, what was the first shot?
Given Robbie's description, I may have not been looking at the first shot, but I saw Michael J. Fox and the other lead in the car together, and it was like the last shot of the first film was the first shot of the second film,
which is cool.
And I was like, great, we're in. Perfect sequel.
Yeah. Longest
whatever.
Title sequence though. It was just titles over sky. Like for my 2025 brain, I was like, how are we using this much time to give no new information, no story, no interesting visuals? It was just like weird blue. It wasn't even good clouds. It was and it went on forever. Longest, most boring title sequence ever.
Really quickly, what do you mean by it wasn't even good clouds? Because I was wondering exactly how they made such good clouds at the time. Because now I hit the cloud button and there are clouds.
I mean, fair. I was thinking about that the whole time. Part of what got me in on this, brought me back in, was like, how did they do this? Like, what's real, what's not? They didn't have the same like none of this is AI. Like, that's real cool. Like thinking about how they did it. So that got me back in. And so fair, like it just was, I guess I was like, if we're just going to stare at clouds for like 5 minutes with words on top of them, it wasn't even like they were the most artful clouds I've ever seen or like the most beautiful skyscapes. It was just like they were clouds. Yeah, they weren't CGI AI clouds. So that's something.
It was a little bit absurd after a while, but it was also, it reminded me of that. Did you two see Airplane?
Oh yeah. It's been a while.
Oh my God, Cole. Oh my God. Oh my God. We're doing an episode on Airplane at some point. But there's this shot when Robert Hayes' character, Ted Stryker, goes into the cockpit and he has to fly the plane. And he's looking at the control panel of the airplane, and it just pans across it. And it just pans across it forever. It just keeps going, like it's a minute long. Like so
funny.
A panel could not be that long. It was just like
It's so funny.
Like I just picture part of it is to show the overwhelming nature of what he's about to do, because the pilot is having to pilot a plane for the first time since the war. And so but it's also part of the absurdity of the movie. It's like a sight gag.
In Airplane, it's a brilliant visual gag. It's story. It adds story. Like it actually does a lot. Where like I don't think the opening credits do anything except build anticipation. But in Airplane, a lot of Airplane is just brilliant sight gags.
Yeah. And also when it's panning across the board, there's also the musical element to it, which is like the music itself builds too. So it's like da na 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 na.
Oh, that's so funny. It keeps almost finishing and then it just keeps going.
Yeah, it just keeps going and going and going. But yeah, it does fulfill that, like it is trying to show what he's psychologically going through, but it's done so like in the context of that movie. It's just I think there's like a gag every 10 or 15 seconds in that movie, or like every 30 seconds depending. It's Cole. You have to see that movie. You really have to see that movie.
It's on deck.
With the credit sequence in this, it was like pretentious, and it was also like, we are about to show you something. You have been looking forward to this for so long that we are really going to milk this. Like these are the actors, and these are the writers, and these are the producers, and we're going to change it from like a bright sunny day to a dark day to it's night again, and then it's day. Like it really. It was kind of pretentious but glorious as well. It was like
you're right. They weren't giving you a sneak peek at anything you were about to see. It's like you've waited literal years for this. Yes. We know everyone's excited. Because it was a real shared community. I feel like, especially in the 80s, right? Like it was that like water cooler talk. Like we all are like, everyone's excited. We're all in the theater the first night to see this. And now you're going to sit through another 5 minutes of nothing.
Right.
You don't get to see a single futuristic thing.
Yeah. It's hard to remember, but this was like a technical marvel of a movie when it came out. Like it was really Robert Zemeckis is no joke when it comes to like making technologically advanced movies, and so it was huge. Like he was like, okay, so I got house money. Everyone wants to see this. Let's see what we can do. And this is one of those things where it's like, yeah. It's like, let's do this. If we're going to do this, let's do this.
Yeah. And that's where I got back. I think I pushed out of it, but got back was like from a filmmaking perspective of like, what's it like to watch this in like 1989 and how did they do it? And like, could we still do some of those things? Like I think like cinema has been so flattened, and I'm so bored by like the AI and the like not like, so it's like, what were they doing in 85 and could we still do stuff like that? It was fun to try to think about how does 1985 get this done? It looks so ridiculous now, but it's still a marvel if you really think about like all the things they didn't. Not a Marvel movie, just like a marvelous kind of endeavor.
When you were talking about the clouds, all I could think of was Too Many Cooks.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, wow.
Wait, you're going to have to explain that.
That's funny that that's such a modern, outdated reference.
Yeah, that's a 2015 reference.
Yeah.
Hey, look what he did.
Wait, Cole, explain that. Explain that for people who don't know what that is.
Oh, Too Many Cooks is a sketch where it's the title sequence of an 80s or 90s television show called Too Many Cooks that keeps introducing new characters into the title sequence of the show to the point of absurdity, and then beyond the point of absurdity to the point of I don't even, it might still be going as we speak. And
Yeah.
it may
Yeah.
have never ended.
Yeah, I don't think I ever watched the whole thing. I was just like, okay, got it. And then I don't think I've seen the end of it.
Keeps going. Yeah.
What do each of us want to say about this story?
Back to the Future 2 is a technical marvel of a movie. I think some of the things that it does, modern movies could stand to do or could stand to take lessons from.
My initial reaction was it was a marvel of its time. It remains a marvel if you really explore like what it took to do that and how impressive it would still be to do those same things today. So if you chose to not use CGI and AI and you tried to make the same movie, it remains a marvel. And yeah, I would love to play with that. That looked so fun. And like what are ways in which we can continue to do things without technology that like can move movie making forward? Is thinking about that through this movie was really interesting to me.
How different would Back to the Future look if you began filming today?
Oh, that's an interesting question. It would probably look quite a bit different. It may not be as charming. You know, there's a certain charm to the way that movie was made with the tools that we had at the time. Oh, and I'll tell you something interesting about Back to the Future is that, you know, everyone thinks it's this big special effects science fiction movie, but there's only 30 shots in it.
Wow.
It's a very, very complicated science fiction story, but there's only 30 special effects shots, and most of them are lightning.
It feels like the people who made the first one were just given a ton of money and a ton of leeway to explore the world of the first movie and just went to town on it. As far as the story goes, it is so heavy on plot and it is so light on story. Most of what is being said is exposition. Everything that everyone says is exposition, exposition, exposition until the end when the filmmaking really kicks in terms of the visual storytelling and the visual effects. What this movie does because of that is it feels like less of its own movie and it feels more like it's laying the groundwork for Back to the Future 3. A lot of the seeds for Back to the Future 3 are planted in this movie. In this movie, and not in a very sophisticated way. So there were times where they would say something like, I want to explore the biggest mystery of all, love. And that is something that's very much explored in Back to the Future 3. So that it feels like there's less story and just more, and that's one of the reasons it feels like there's less story and more plot.
And now, Jacqueline, what do you want to say about this story?
Back to the Future 2 was full of nostalgia cupcakes. The more that you know about the first movie, the more fun this movie would be. It was also just, it feels so of its time. So it's a very fun thing to watch in 2025, being like, wow, this is like an 80s movie. And in trying to predict the future, it only tells you more about itself and of the time, you know, like the fact that faxes were aspirational, and so like a future world only involves more faxes. You know, it just sort of like tells you so much about the time and the place, and I thought that was really fun. I totally missed that was Michael J. Fox's his daughter. And I watched it with Marvel Guy. And maybe he knew because he's funny, but he goes, why did they have to find a daughter who looks so much like Michael J. Fox? Why couldn't the daughter have looked more like Elizabeth Shue?
Oh, he played like 5 different, he played like everyone in this movie.
It felt very silly. There's like a lot of slapstick, you know, like having Michael J. Fox play all these different characters.
Using state-of-the-art makeup techniques, the actors were transformed into futurized versions of themselves.
The process itself is pretty time-consuming. It's, it was about 4 hours all told. Could be worse. Could have a job.
Beautiful, huh?
That's not the most pleasant thing in the world, but I think that's all worth the fun that you have when you're actually in character.
No comment, damn it! No comment!
The characters created through these advanced makeup techniques were a closely guarded secret during the shooting of Back to the Future Part 2.
Some of the acting and directing just felt sort of like silly, like it was funny, but almost not intentionally, but it was. And it has the ability to feel very dumb, but it actually is quite smart. And it started to break my brain as I started to try to think through this. Like we're in 1985, even though the movie is like comes out in 1989, it's in 1985. They go forward to 2015. Their actions in 2015 cause a blubber that it like goes back to 1955, I think, and then they have to go back to 1985, then go back to and then like, but they've only fixed up to the point of the movie, but they haven't actually fixed the thing that they originally like. It starts to really break your brain. And what happens when two time traveling Martys are in the same place, and like, do they get confused? And you have to keep all the characters. It's actually quite smart. Like I really was kind of like eye rolled to it, and then started philosophically, I started being like, whoa. So yeah, a little bit of a brain bender. Cole, what would you like to say about this film? And do you consider it a film or a movie?
Back to the Future 2 is a movie's movie.
I knew you were going to say that.
I tried to treat it like a film in researching it, but from the second shot, I could not. I couldn't take any part of it seriously in like a pretentious way, but I just had a great time the entire time, and not knowing any context of how people had received this originally, and having not done any research about what people are saying about it now, all I could think was, this is the most fun I've had watching a movie in I don't know how long. The bloated thing I want to say about it, or the actual answer to your question about what I want to say about it, is that it's amazing how happiness and jealousy and regret, or whether or not we characterize ourselves as rich or poor, is never about wealth in absolute terms. It's about wealth compared to what's available to your imagination at the moment. And the specific example being the future McFlys live in the quote-unquote bad part of town, and their house is 1,000,000 times more decked out in things, quote unquote, than houses in the very nice neighborhoods that we're all recording this episode from are. Like, we would all be very well to do. It'd be silly to have 17 fax machines, but
one thing that Back to the Future 2 did not correctly predict is just like how bad poverty can actually get, that like we wouldn't have our basic needs met. But what it is showing is that safety is actually a product of the rich, right? So they might have all these things, but they may not feel like there was I think like a drive-by shooting, a little bit also racist undertones that did not hold up well, by the way, in that bad neighborhood. Yeah. So, but there's this idea of like, there was a drive-by shooting right on the street. So there's like a safety issue. So I hear you. It's like, but I think that's even true today. It's sort of like unhoused populations have phones, right? They have like expensive, iPhones, but they also don't have safety. They don't have nourishment. They don't have access to vegetables. They're in food deserts. So there's like I hear you, but there's also sort of like, I think it does an all right job of showing or attempting to show the level, like he's being able to be like Marty McFly is able to be controlled by his boss to commit a crime because there's no other way out, right? So there's like power structures at play. There's layers of poverty that exist outside of just having some things inside your house that are nice. But I will say that they had no idea what was coming, because boy, we are in some poverty times where like people probably couldn't afford any of it. So you're not entirely wrong, Like middle class poverty in 1989, I think had no idea what like middle class poverty could be today.
Wow. Then please feel encouraged to confirm or deny the second part of the thing I wanted to say about this, which was that the point of view is so Reagan / so conservative.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. that's where this movie really is of its time, because the thing that I was referring to earlier was his Japanese boss, and there was a real fear of at that time of Japan taking over America. So that it was really, Japan is an economic powerhouse. There were several movies at that time that also dealt with that.
And I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was like a racist sort of depiction of a Japanese person. Like it was a very like American Japanese person playing a like stereotype of a Japanese villain. Like I found that really weird. And it didn't lean in super hard, but I still was like, oh, I don't love this.
Yeah.
It wasn't the worst thing I've seen, but it didn't feel good either.
To what Cole is saying, it's immediately identifiable. We know what is happening in that situation right away. Is that Japan is like has become the powerhouse that we feared it would be in 1985. You know.
Interesting.
I did blanch at it. I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. It's almost as bad as like Mickey Rourke playing a Chinese person in Breakfast at Tiffany's, you know, like it feels icky. It feels really icky. The characters are explaining the stakes to us while they're happening. There's no story. It's just exposition, exposition, exposition.
I thought the stakes were very low here. Like the stakes were sort of like, don't call me chicken. And I was like, this is not enough to build a hero's arc on. Like this is I can't.
Overwhelming experience of watching Back to the Future 2 in this case was how emotionally checked out I was from it. I can't give it its due without comparing it to its predecessor, its first movie, because the first movie really took its time in like establishing what life was like and what each of the characters were like, so that, you know, Marty's dad is like a pushover. Biff is a bully. Marty's mom, Lorraine, is like scared and conservative, and each detail that they give, like especially with Lorraine's brother Joey, Uncle Joey, who's in prison, that when Marty does in fact go back to the future, like all of these things are all these details about these people are subverted. You know, you see them as young people, and you see the mother is not quite as conservative as she has become in the future. You see Marty's dad is a little bit more his father is not unlike him as a kid, and that he has aspirations that he just doesn't feel the confidence in pursuing, the same way that Marty doesn't have the confidence to pursue his dream of being in a band and sending in an audition tape. And you also get the sense that he's stuck in the past. He might not be able to get back to the future. And there's real stakes there. There's real like, oh, he might be stuck there and his family might disappear and he might disappear. In Back to the Future 2, there's none of that.
I felt like they forgot to treat the characters like humans.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Felt like a sequel. And we've done that on repeat now for 20, 30, 40 years. But they forget that they're humans. A thing that I really didn't like about this film and that actually made me quite uncomfortable is the way that they treat Jennifer. Like there's just this like unconscious woman and they just dump her body like on streets or like on porches and like don't worry about what's going on at all.
Yeah.
Like this wild disregard for her like well-being, right? And we're just supposed to go with it. She's not a person at all. She's just like a pretty woman who serves as a girlfriend and like a tiny way to move plot forward, but like there's no story, there's no care, there's no like sweetness treated to her at all. I wanted the humanity and the sweetness in this film too. Like I wanted to have the emotional weight plus the fun. If we had the chance to go back and change things, would we actually ever take that chance? Because it would change everything. And I don't know that we'd actually want that. So I think there's some really deep stuff there that they just they don't get to.
There is an aspect of these movies that could be philosophical and opens itself to a more philosophical dealing with time. And I was thinking of that Faulkner quote that was in an Obama speech. It's the past is never dead. It's not even past. And what these movies do, whether it's intentional or not, is they do deal with these people's families and these people's predecessors and the lives that they lead having an effect on their future selves, or at least adding dimension to who these people are. When we get into the Back to the Future 3, the past Biff, the 1885 Biff, is a bully. The 1955 Biff is a bully, and the 2015 in an alternate universe is also a bully. What the first movie did really well is it showed Biff as a bully in 1955, and then in the original 1985 he's also a bully, but then after Marty goes back he changes that, and at the end of the first movie Biff is now subservient. He's now like less of a bully, he holds less power. There is a part of this movie that doesn't even deal with that. All the changes to the future are cosmetic. It's like, this is what the town square looks like in 2015. This is what the dinner table looks like in 2015 with those Google Glass things. So it's all technology. It is not emotional weight.
In Back to the Future 2, as a reference to Back to the Future 1, Marty McFly did not like to be called a chicken. And it was very specific wording. Like, it wasn't just anything else. It was very like, you don't call Marty McFly a chicken. It felt like calling Marty McFly chicken is like the entire plot. Like, it was like the inciting incident. Everything was built on it. Like, this was the thing that drove the problems forward. That's so unhinged, and I care about Marty McFly more, that I don't find him to be this like toxic masculinity guy who's like, I never back down from a fight, like he's not Elmer Fudd. And so it kind of like, it made more sense in the first one. Like, there was more nuance to it.
Another dumb thing, it took me forever to realize that the adult Michael J. Fox character was wearing 2 ties.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
He was. I noticed that right away. Why did it take you so long? Did you think it was just one really big tie? Which is very finance coded, right? It's very like guy in job he hates. Like unhappy middle management man wears big tie.
Power ties and Lee Iacocca.
Very Reagan coded.
Yeah, car makers in particular in the 80s were like, when the economy coming back, like they were superstars. So there was like Lee Iacocca.
Oh yeah, Lee Iacocca. Wow.
The last thing that I wrote down is that I've rented a DeLorean.
You did?
Because did you do Back to the Future? Ads.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
I should say this is a full sentence. I've rented a DeLorean for Back to the Future, the musicals.
Broadway.
Ads on Broadway, which never got actually shot, but meeting the person who's like the DeLorean guy made me realize. He took me on an hour-long conversation about how deeply people who love Back to the Future love Back to the Future, and that people get married in the DeLorean.
Yes.
Dang. It rolls around Times Square quite a bit too. I feel like I've definitely seen it in the city. I've definitely seen. I guess I didn't realize you could just rent it. That's probably why I see it.
It was the coolest thing in the world too.
Yeah. I still think it's cool. I have so much. When I see it like around the city, I'm just like so happy. I'm like, I can't believe that I got to see that with my real eyeballs.
Yeah. And the guy who did it, John DeLorean, was like a really controversial figure because he made these cars that were really cool. But then I think he was arrested for like cocaine abuse. Like he was a big drug addict. So
he's like original Elon.
Yeah. Power ties and Lee Iacocca. Yeah. In the 80s. America's comeback. Very Reagan. Very Reagan.
Very Reagan.
Yeah.
Very Reagan coded.
Yeah. This time around, I noticed there are a lot of references to "It's a Wonderful Life" in this movie. When he's walking through the cemetery to find his dad's tombstone, there's the way that it's shot and the way the camera kind of focuses on his face is very reminiscent of "It's a Wonderful Life." And there's a lot of if I went through, I could probably find more.
Dang.
But there were many shots that were reminiscent of "It's a Wonderful Life."
Ooh, good catch. All right, Mr.
Yeah.
Looking at the cinematography. I was very interested in some of the editing. That some of the editing was very like, I don't know, obvious, but like good. Like they clunk Marty on the head and you hear clunk, and then it goes black, cut to black, and then I don't know, like they're just very. This is a transition shot. Editing moments that were like sort of like, you know, a little slapstick, a little on the nose, a little noticeable.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I didn't catch the It's a Wonderful Life references at all. That's really interesting.
Okay. I have one more thing. I know that I'm the one who needs to leave, but there's one more thing I wanted to add to the stakes, because I thought about this a lot. The only time in the movie that I thought the stakes were raised was when at the end, when Doc disappears, when he's in the air and the lightning is coming, and then the car disappears, and Marty is in fact stuck in 1955, and you see that the flag string, or you know, and
it slowly floats down.
It just slowly comes down, and that was the only time in the movie I felt like actual stakes, and that
which is the very end.
Yeah.
It's everything.
And those were the stakes in the entire first movie. You know, like him being stuck, not him changing the past or changing the future, but like it was so visceral. And I remember watching it. It's also technically when Doc Brown's car disappears, it's silent, and it's kind of the first time in the whole movie that there's silence. Like everything is just like move, sound, music, propulsion. Like, and this was like, it all led up to this one thing. And then you see that kite string come down. And I was like, oh, that's what I wanted from this movie.
I felt huge stakes then too. Yeah. At the very end. And I also found it was the first time that's not fair, but I really enjoyed the letter showing up and the guy being like, this guy came 30 years ago and like told us to, and I, you know, like it just, that to me like was playing with the universe. It was playing with time. I found that very smart and very fun and very interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was sort of the first time. Yeah. Which I think goes to that, what we've been saying, which is like, this was a filler kind of movie to set up for the final film. So you don't get your like 3 acts. It's like, it's the second act in a film. And so it doesn't resolve in the way you want to, and everything's just sort of exposition. And proof of that is like the stakes don't even start until like the last 3 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I couldn't believe that Doc disappeared, because I was like, how does he even come back? And like Marty's actually stuck. Like I had like, the stakes were there for me. I was like, oh my God. And now there's 2 Martys trapped here. And like, what if they can't get them both out? Or if one gets out, then it like, what happens to the Marty that's like stuck here? And then like, it got me thinking.
You're saying that for Back to the Future 2, there's a first act, a second act, and then the third act of Back to the Future 2 is the whole movie Back to the Future 3?
I actually think how it works is Back to the Future 2 is act 1. I mean, we're literally just at the inciting.
Reset.
Yeah, it's like Back to the Future 2 is just setting us up. It's like act 1 or the very beginning of act 1, and then acts 2 and 3 of a story fall into back. I suspect, because I don't know if I ever watched Back to the Future 3, because I did not like Back to the Future 2 as a kid. Much like the first half of the season 3 of Ted Lasso, which I hated the first 6 episodes until I saw the whole thing, and then I could go back and now I can appreciate the first 6 episodes. Because it's setting you up for something else that pays off, that finally pays off.
The only time in Back to the Future 2 that I found the current characters going back to scenes from the older movie was when Doc disappeared. He gets the telegram, and then he's like, oh my God, I need Doc. And then they show the end of Back to the Future 1 when the car disappears and goes back to the future. And Doc is dancing around, and all of a sudden you see Marty from Back to the Future 2 run into the scene. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, that's really funny. Like, that was really satisfying. And I felt like I wanted more of that throughout I didn't want to marvel at the technical prowess of what they were doing in showing these original scenes from different view. Like, I wanted the action to have to, like, it was much more satisfying in a way that it contributed to the movie going forward.
Right. Yeah.
With stakes, not just because look what we can do.
Totally. Yeah. It did,
I
I mean,
made sense.
it finally felt like it was driving things forward. I agree. Literally and punningly. Driving. Okay, that was the biggest eye roll I've ever seen. I think Cole was just looking at the ceiling, but it sure looked like I complimented a pun and Cole rolled his eyes.
It coincided because I was looking at the ceiling, but then I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to display how I felt about that pun.
Yeah, it did both. It did.
So you each wrote down exactly one favorite line.
I'll just say I liked the line, "We must be in hell." No, we're in Hill Valley, though. I can't imagine hell being much worse. Oh, man. It's not. It wasn't the most well-written movie. I didn't have a lot of deep feelings about favorite lines, though.
I did like the "I'm old, I'm young," and the fainting. Like, that was great.
Oh, yeah.
That was really fun.
Elizabeth Shue, right? Jennifer.
Yeah.
I'm old, I'm young.
Yeah.
Very Freaky Friday coded.
Oh, I did like the older Biff saying to the younger bit, "It's leaves. Make like a tree and leave."
Oh, yeah, that's what he was like. Make like a tree. What did he say? Make like a tree, and I'm gonna go.
Get out of here.
Or get out of here.
Yeah, because that's from the original.
Stupid. I did write down another line, and Robbie, it points out something you've talked about. The only chance to repair the present is in the past. So there is that like thesis sentence idea that I don't think that they necessarily did nuanced, but they are trying to look at that, like, you know, our future is predicted a lot by the past and our ancestors and all of that. So the only chance to repair the present is in the past.
That has to be there from the beginning to have any payoff in the middle or the end. And I just don't. I think it was more cosmetic than it was philosophical.
Robbie got you that line, Cole. That was the one. That's what he was asking you to say, and you just kept being like, "I don't know. I'm gonna." Yeah,
that was it.
I'm
intimidated by being asked to do this.
It's seen.